Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Arundhati Ramnan and these are the top headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Markets trade in a tight band even as choppiness continues to hold sway. A last-hour rally by financials helps the market close near day's high. All Nifty Bank constituents except the SBI end in the green. The rupee ends flat 79.81 to the dollar. Crude oil prices remain elevated as supply concerns continue to hold sway. Brent stays above $100 a barrel. Markets buzz with talk that OPEC's output cuts could take place sooner if Iranian supplies resume once it finalizes a nuclear deal. The average remuneration of heads of Nifty 50 companies surged to a record 28.4 crores in FY22. Research by CNBC-TV18 shows that JSW Group Sajan Jindal took home the biggest package in the CMD category. HCL Tech's Vijay Kumar was the highest paid CEO. Outgoing Chief Justice N.V. Ramana refers the issue of freebies to a three-judge bench headed by Justice Chandrachud, also nudges the centre to lead an all-party meeting to develop consensus. The centre refuses to take the lead, bats for a court-appointed panel to give recommendations instead. Over 8 months after board approval, the government's conversation of Vodafone Idea's dues to equity is yet to be complete. Sources say the telco's inability to raise funds and its dwindling subscriber base may be weighing on the centre's mind. The Russian-Ukraine war crosses the 6-month mark as Ukraine marks 31 years of independence. Ukrainian President Zelensky, in an emotional state, says that the country was reborn when the Russians invaded, asserts that it'll never give up its freedom. First up, straight to the market action of the day. Markets traded in a tight band even as choppiness continued to hold sway. A last-hour rally by financials helped the market close near the day's high, and all Nifty Bank constituents except the SBI ended in the green. Anuj Singhal is here with all of the day's market action. Anuj?
Well, the market through the day was flat, but then had that last-hour flourish. That can happen sometimes on the penultimate day of the series. The Bank Nifty really led that move. In the last 1 hour, the Bank Nifty surged 300 points. For the day, of course, it was up 1%, and that led to the decent gains in the Nifty as well. The broader market was doing well through the day today, though. It's just the index woke up in late trade. In the financials, you had all these big names doing well: ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, and Kotak Mahindra Bank, which did well. Among other gainers, you had NTPC, Larsen & Toubro and Grasim doing well. On the losing end, you had few stocks, but not with too much weight on the index. BPCL, Divi's Labs and Tata Steel. Let me revisit banks because that really was your sector of the day. The tier 2 banks really were on fire. RBL Bank was up almost 20%. Bandhan Bank, IDFC First Bank also higher. And in some of the other stocks, we had ABB which did well. Canfin Homes was higher and Sun TV as well did quite well. So all in all, it looks like for now the markets dodged some bullet and it's ready to move on. Of course, we need to see if the global markets are supportive or not.
So last hour flourish there on the Lal Street. Thank you so much for those details, Anuj. Now, crude oil prices remain elevated as supply concerns continue to hold sway. Brent stays above the $100 a barrel mark. Markets buzz with talk that OPEC's output cuts could take place sooner if Iranian supplies resume once it finalizes a nuclear deal. Take a look.
The question is how much more can US actually tighten in that environment where the dollar is already getting reasonably strong towards 110. And I think at the price level, probably people will start thinking a slowdown on tightening might be in the card, particularly as the recessionary environments are actually appearing almost everywhere around the world. So I think what we have now is that the financial markets are discounting now recession in the commodity space, whilst actually low inventories and problematics we have on the ground might actually prove that by next year or by later the year, we are actually moving back into a shortage crisis. And we see that by backwardation, we see it on the curve, we see it in delivery issues. So commodity prices will probably go up again for end users.
And in court corner, outgoing Chief Justice N.V. Ramana refers the issue of freebies to a three-judge bench headed by Justice Chandrachud. At the same time, nudges the centre to lead an all-party meeting to develop consensus. The centre refuses to take the lead, bats for the court-appointed panel to give recommendations instead. The U.S. Immigration Department says that it received sufficient H-1B visa applications to meet the threshold for fiscal year 2023. In a statement, the department said that they have received 65,000 regular applications and 20,000 applications under the U.S. Masters category. H-1B is the most sought-after work visa among foreign professionals, including Indians. A Mumbai-bound Indigo flight returned to the taxi bay at the Goa airport after a glitch was detected in one of its engines. The Indian Navy's rescue team helped safely deplane all 187 passengers. The airline said in a statement that the pilot got a momentary engine warning during taxiing on a preliminary analysis. A senior DGCA official said that the warning was spurious and there was no fire. And shifting gears to the auto sector, Maruti Suzuki has announced it will recall more than 160 Desire Tour S cars. The move comes after the company suspected a defect in the airbag control unit. The suspected defect was found in vehicles manufactured between August 6th and the 16th of this year. Mercedes-Benz gears up to introduce 3 new all-electric EVs this year, beginning with the launch of its flagship EV sedan, the AMG EQS 5.3 today. The EQS is priced at over 2 crore rupees ex-showroom. Mercedes also announced its sustainability goals. It aims to ensure carbon-neutral production by 2022 and up to 50% EVs by 2025. And even 8 months after the Vodafone Idea board approved converting interest on deferred spectrum payments and AGR dues into government equity, the centre is yet to complete the transaction. So what's holding the government back? Ashmit Kumar is here to tell us more. Ashmit?
The government had pitched the telecom relief package introduced last year as a catalyst for turning distressed telecom sector into a sunrise space. Now, while the industry has showered praise, one key component of that relief package is yet to take effect, even as we near nearly 12 months since that cabinet nod. Now, that key component has been the scheme allowing telcos to convert interest on deferred spectrum payments and AGR dues into government equity. Now, Vodafone Idea opted for the same scheme on January 11th of this year, 2022. Now, the net present value of interest dues would add up to a little over 16,000 crores. However, nearly 8 months post Vodafone Idea's decision, government is yet to convert outstanding dues into equity. Now, this equity conversion would turn the government into the telecom company's single largest shareholder as of Jan 2022. That would translate into a holding of 35.8%, which is higher than either of the 2 remaining promoter groups. Now, this was anticipated to be a long-drawn process. Any such conversion would require the nod from the Finance Ministry. Vodafone Idea is listed, so it would also require the SEBI nod and finally the approval from the DOT. Now, in March, Vodafone Idea had pleaded before the government to fast-track the conversion process. The company had claimed that it's in talks with various funds for raising funds, in fact, and that equity conversion would help in mobilizing them. Now, at the time, the company was seeking to raise as much as 20,000 crores from promoter groups and external investors. Now, with little movement in April or May, government sources revealed in the month of June that the equity conversion may be completed ahead of the 5G auctions. Now, we had learned at that time that due diligence had almost been completed and that SEBI's final approval is awaited. Now, in July, Finance Ministry granted its nod, pointing at a possible conversion prior to the 5G auctions, but the auctions began as scheduled on July 26th, with still no movement. Now, while the auctions were underway, the telecom minister revealed that technical issues had come in the way and that conversion will take more time. So, are there concerns that the government has on its mind? Well, the company has admittedly struggled to raise funds for its operations from either external investors or the promoter groups. The telecom's customer base has also been bleeding, has been eroding, with lakhs porting out almost every month. And these concerns are taking a toll on the company's finances with mounting losses. Now, speaking of the subscriber base, the first half of 2022 alone has seen the company lose over 88 lakh subscribers. The 12-month period ending with the month of June 30th of this year saw Vodafone Idea lose as many as 1.66 crore customers. And for the 15-month period beginning 1st of April 2021, the company saw over 2.7 crore customers porting out. In fact, the last time the company added subscribers was way back in March of 2021. Now, expectedly, the financials are nothing to write home about. Since the merger, the cumulative losses are pegged at 1.68 lakh crore rupees. The subscriber base has fallen from 422 million to 240 million. That's down by 43%. Meanwhile, the total debt has crept up to nearly 2 lakh crores. Now, the effects of this was visible in the recently concluded 5G auctions. Vodafone Idea's total bid of about 18,800 crore rupees looked bleak against Airtel's bid of 43,000 crores and Jio's bid of 88,000 crores. Now, the nearly 8-month delay in government action is at odds with the recent pace that has been shown by the DoT in execution of spectrum auctions and the fast pace of assigning spectrum to the telecom companies. Now, while the government leaders continue to cite issues, no clarity has emerged on the nature of such issues and the possible timeline for execution.
All right, Ashmit, thank you so much for those details. Now, CNBC-TV18 research shows that the average remuneration of heads of Nifty 50 companies surged to a record 28.4 crores in FY22. Now, the remuneration of heads of 8 of these companies account for 50% of the entire pie. Sonal Bhutra joins us now with that analysis. Sonal?
As per this interesting data, which is compiled by my colleague Yusuf, the average remuneration for the heads or the chiefs, as you mentioned, of the Nifty 50 companies surged to a record level in FY22, that is at 28.4 crore rupees. And it's not only professional-run companies that top the list. Even promoter-led companies like Divi's Labs and JSW Steel, they saw aggregate compensation of 140 crore rupees. Now, the average compensation in FY22 was up. We saw a 34% growth out there. And between FY18 and FY20, the average compensation, it averaged around that 17 to 18 crore rupees. So from there, it has come into 28.4 crore rupees. Now, let's get down to the names. Who really got the most amount of money? HCL Tech's boss, C. Vijay Kumar, was the top paid professional. Also because this included a long-term incentive from a subsidiary to the tune of $12.5 million. In the highest paid MD and chairman category, it was Sajjan Jindal, and this was due to profit-linked commission of 121.7 crore rupees because of high profitability for the company. Wipro's CEO was the second highest paid head, that is in the Nifty pack, with an annual pay package of 79.8 crore rupees. For some of the IT majors, let's talk about them now. Salil Parekh of Infosys drew compensation of 71 crore rupees, CP Gurnani of Tech Mahindra drew compensation of 62.7 crore rupees, and Rajesh Gopinathan at 25.8 crore rupees. The compensation of clause includes salaries, bonuses, stock options, incentives, and other rewards paid during the year as well. The 4 IT firms, X of TCS, along with Divi's Laboratories, JSW Steel, Hero Motocorp, and Shree Cement together account for 56% of the combined Nifty 50 remuneration of 1,419 crores in FY22. Other companies which saw doubling their CEO's compensation include L&T, Maruti Suzuki, Grasim, Apollo Hospitals, that is the company there. On the flip side, ICICI Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank and HDFC Bank from the banking pack, they saw their CEOs taking lower remuneration than what they earned last year.
All right, Sonal, many thanks for those details. Now, on that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. But coming up next, the Russian-Ukraine war crosses the 6-month mark as Ukraine marks 31 years of independence. Details when we come back. Stay tuned.
डॉक्टर साहब आप तो जीनियस हो। अच्छा शेयर कौन सा लूं?
सही सवाल गलत जगह। सही जगह है ग्लोब कैपिटल, जहां पर आपको मिलेंगे अवार्ड विनिंग रिसर्च बेस्ड आइडियाज, अपने पोर्टफोलियो को मैनेज करने की सुविधा। ग्लोब कैपिटल, मनी मस्ट ग्रो। इन्वेस्टमेंट इन सिक्योरिटीज मार्केट आर सब्जेक्ट टू मार्केट रिस्क। Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
Some folks dream of easy access to airport services. Some have ease of a card. Be it lounge access, meet and assist, spa services, and more. And what powers their credit and debit card is Dream folks. India's largest airport services aggregator platform. DreamBooks.
टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस ले लेना आज।
ले लेंगे। कौन सा मरने वाले?
शक्ति सर, अगर तू टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस लिए बिना ही मर गया फ्रेंड, तेरी फैमिली का बच जाएगा बैंड। 1 करोड़ का टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 430 रुपए महीने से शुरू फ्रॉम पॉलिसी बाजार।
Catch CNBC-TV18's Shibani Gharat in conversation with Scott Forrester, Division Vice President of Corning Gorilla Glass, as he highlights the key features and advantages of the Corning Gorilla Glass with DX and DX Plus on Tech Toys Special.
नई कार। तुमने कार इंश्योरेंस खरीदा होगा एगो ऐप से, नहीं?
आपको नहीं तो
कोई बात नहीं मूर्ति, गलतियां होती रहती हैं, कोई जरूरत नहीं है चेक करने। नहीं मूर्ति, कोई फायदा नहीं, मैं बोल रहा हूँ मूर्ति, कोई जरूरत नहीं।
नई कार खरीदने से पहले एगो इंश्योरेंस कंपनी चेक करे और 50,000 तक बचाए।
कंस्ट्रक्शन बहुत तगड़ा है। क्या भाई साहब, जो साइट विजिट ना दिखाए 99 एकर्स बताए। घर लेना हो या बेचना, एक्सपर्ट से ही पूछना। 99acres.com।
Welcome back. You're still with us on Business 360. Now, the big global headline today marks 6 months since Russia began the invasion of Ukraine. Thousands of people have died from both sides of the conflict, while millions have been displaced since February 24th. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned of more Russian strikes on its Independence Day, which ironically coincides with the 6-month anniversary of the invasion. Meanwhile, the conflict has wreaked havoc on Europe's energy markets. Sylvia Amaro joins us now with more on this. Sylvia?
Let me show you a couple of bullet points, really. And I would like to start with the gas storage levels. This is one very important one to keep monitoring over the coming months. At the moment, you can see that Europe as a whole has a storage level higher than 75%. And that means they're actually on track to achieve the 80% target by the end of October. One analyst that I spoke with yesterday did say that these are good levels, but it will be important to see where they're at the end of the winter, because overall the EU does not want to run out completely out of these gas levels. So let's wait and see what's going to happen on that front. But of course, these are good levels, but they're coming at a hefty price. If you look at the gas prices in Europe, they're up by more than 100% since the invasion began. And further disruptions, particularly if Russia decides to close Nord Stream 1 completely, could add up to these gas price levels even more. So this is also an important one to keep monitoring. And speaking of Russia, let me show you where the economy is at the moment. According to the IMF, they're expecting a contraction of about 6% this year, but they expect the Russian economy to recover in 2023 and only see a contraction of about 3.5%. And now if you look at the stock market, though, that's up by about 7% since the invasion began, really highlighting that when it comes to the stock market, that's actually recovered since that critical day for Europe, for Ukraine, and the world as a whole as well. But I had the chance to speak to the German Association of Gas and Oil Producers, the CEO, yesterday, and this is his assessment of the state of play over the last 6 months.
Let's be very clear. Our energy world in Europe is upside down. Yeah, we used to have great security of supply, affordable prices, well underway in terms of sustainability of our energy supplies. And let's be very clear, security of supply is jeopardized. We don't know how to get through the next winter. Well, we hope we will, and we're doing everything, but it is an open point. Prices are at levels which you could not think of a couple of years ago. And we have to make compromises when it comes to make sure that our energy supplies get more and more environmentally friendly.
Well, that's the latest on Russia and Ukraine. But meanwhile, the U.S. military said it carried out airstrikes in eastern Syria. The military central command said that the targeted areas were used by militias backed by Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard. There was no immediate acknowledgement of the strikes by Syria's state-run media. Iran did not acknowledge the attack either. A former Twitter executive has turned a whistleblower alleging that the company has reckless and negligent cybersecurity policies. Former head of security Peter Zatko is accusing the Twitter management of misleading investors, its own board and regulators about security vulnerabilities. That's not all. Zatko is also seemingly corroborating Elon Musk's claims that Twitter is not revealing the real number of bots on its platform. Andrew Ross-Sorkin is here with more.
Legal drama between Elon Musk and Twitter. Today, the Delaware Court of the Chancery will hear arguments on both sides over access to documents as part of the discovery process. Twitter and Musk have sued each other, of course. Twitter wants the Delaware court to force Musk to close that deal to buy the social media company. The trial is set for mid-October. Yesterday, and we talked a lot about it on the broadcast, we learned that a former Twitter executive blowing the whistle on the company, accusing it of misleading federal regulators about security risks. Some say these claims could potentially, we'll see, help Musk in his legal claim. He seems to think so, given some of the commentary on Twitter by both himself and then his lawyer. I think we read that statement yesterday on the air, and whether that will help him get out of the deal.
On to the other big national headlines of the day. The CBI raided premises of RJD leaders in connection to the Land for Jobs scam in Bihar. Incidentally, the raids took place on the same day Nitish Kumar-led Grand Alliance's floor test in the Bihar Assembly. The RJD is the largest party in the alliance. The Aam Aadmi Party has accused the BJP of trying to topple the Delhi government. In a press conference, AAP leaders alleged that BJP offered 20 crore rupees each to 4 AAP MLAs to switch sides. They also claimed that the BJP threatened them with false cases. The BJP hit back, saying that the liquor mafia may have offered 20 crores to AAP MLAs.
जो प्रयोग शिंदे के ऊपर सफल हुआ, वो प्रयोग सिसोदिया के ऊपर मोदी जी का फेल हो गया, और वो प्रयोग हमारे इन 4 विधायकों पे किया जा रहा है, और इनसे ये भी कहा जा रहा है कि तुम टूटोगे तो 20 करोड़ मिलेगा, तोड़ के दूसरों को लाओगे तो 25 करोड़ मिलेगा। 20-25 विधायक हमारे संपर्क में हैं। इस प्रकार की बातें कही जा रही हैं।
अरे कोई बीजेपी वाला ऑफर नहीं दे रहा है, ये शराब माफियों से 25-25 करोड़ खा करके इनको आदत पड़ गई है। ये सब इनके जो ये शराब माफिया वाले जो मित्र हैं, इनसे सबको 20-20 करोड़ मिला होगा जरूर, और फोन भी शराब माफिया का आ रहा होगा कि तुम्हारे एरिया में मेरा 20 ठेके थे, अब 20 करोड़ ले लो, कैसे भी करके चालू करो। उसी को ये हमारे नाम पे चस्पा करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। इनको बोलिए ना, नाम दिखाएंगे।
Let's now turn the spotlight to the alternative protein space in India. Will the increased focus on health post the pandemic and growing consciousness about sustainability give a boost to the sector? Mangalam Malu and Ritu Singh discuss the ingredients for success. Take a look.
The fact of the matter is these evolving diet preferences, the health consciousness and rising awareness for climate change, all of this has given rise to a food revolution of sorts, and that is what we're going to discuss today on Mad About Markets. And you know what? These ingredients for success of this food revolution, you have the new protein options which are based on plants, which are microorganisms, fermentation and cultivated through animal cells. So these are the kinds of alternative protein products which aim to, one, mimic the look, the feel, and the nutritional profile of your regular animal-based meats and products, and that is what we're going to discuss today.
The big question, how big is the market? How large is this alternate protein market? What pace is it growing at, and how quickly will it get to the critical mass that we're talking about? Well, the world's consumers love animal-based proteins, so much so that in 2020, we ate nearly 574 million metric tons worth of meat, seafood, dairy, and eggs. That's almost 75 kilograms per person. That's also the average weight of a human being on Earth. The total protein consumption was 587 million tons, of which 13 million metric tons was alternate proteins. This is just 2020. But a report by BCG says that this market for alternate proteins, which is the green part that you see here, could grow all the way from 13 million tons to close to 97 million metric tons by 2035. And that's just the base case scenario. The bulk of this, of course, will be plant-based meats at about 69 million metric tons. So that's a lot of plant-based meats that we're talking about.
And you know, the plant-based alternatives, actually, if you look at the overall space, The study also finds that the alternative protein forms only 2% of the total animal protein market. So that is the potential for growth, because by 2035, it is expected that they will make up almost 11% of the overall protein market. And that, again, like you said, was a base case scenario, right? In a faster technological innovation scenario where there's full regulatory support, it could speed up growth all the way to 22% in an optimistic scenario. So huge potential for growth from 2% all the way to 22%.
And you can catch that entire episode at 10 p.m. right here on CNBC-TV18. And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Business 360. Many thanks for watching, but stay tuned to CNBC-TV18. The news continues on the other side.